This other thing I wanted to ask.
So people are just like, what do you do? Like, what do you actually do? And then when you say things like, I'm living my life, I have, I run a company, I have a podcast, I take care of my four-legged child and all of those things, they're like, okay, all of that is fine, but why are you not married?
So I came up with a master plan. So I have a follow-up question for people who say they're married. My first question is, are you married? And they'll be like, yes. And I'll be like, are you happy? And they're like, sometimes.
I agree with what Rishi said, that if the timing is right, that one person is going to feel like your entire world. But is that person going to be your entire world for the rest of your life? Maybe not.
So there's societal pressure, and I think there's a very different branch to it nowadays, which is social media pressure as well.
I just want to put in a PSA for anybody that's watching this podcast, right? Please get your therapy from a therapist and not from social media.
This other thing I wanted to ask each one of you, because we were talking about friends and family. I think because Anusha was telling that she initially found from the family, but Disha was like, oh, we're all on the same spectrum. I have gone through the phase wherein they were with you at certain point, but then they also started feeling a little different later. And one of the biggest things is when people ask you, are you single? I'm saying yes. And like, why are you single? I'm like, it's not just my fault alone. It's not that I'm trying. I am trying. Things are not working out, and maybe I'm not. I don't have the dating apps are bullshit. But that apart too, I might not have a great social life where I can meet new people, and that is also one of the reasons why I'm single. The thing that follows through is, if you have seen somebody, if you have seen multiple people and things have not materialized, people have called me commitment phobic. Have you guys been called so too? You meet, you tell your friends that okay, I'm talking to so and so person, then probably sometime later it did not work out. I'm not even talking about tens and hundreds today. You talk to 3 people and something did not work out, and they're like, you're commitment phobic. Have you guys felt this?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest. I have I have said that somebody was commitment phobic. The same person that I thought was avoidant. I was like, that person is commitment phobic. But to sort of soften the blow on my own self, I also knew that his previous partners also thought he was commitment phobic. So perhaps there was some merit to it. And this is not by me questioning the previous partners, right? Like he himself revealed that. So perhaps there was some merit there. The funny part is, whoever I've partnered up with, they don't think that I'm commitment phobic, because I suffer from the opposite. Anusha and we talked about it. I suffer from limerence, where you're immediately, as soon as you see a person, you're imagining the next 20 years with them. So that's something that I suffer from. So commitment hasn't been an issue at all. But people who have seen me in my college, be it my engineering or my MBA, and then some of them during my early years of work, they think that there is something wrong. They're like, okay, like what is the reason why this person is not getting settled, right? Like they believe that kuch to gadbad hai, like she does not want to commit to somebody, or the moment she sees even a little inconvenience, probably she's just escaping from the scene. So that in fact has come up in conversations with some of my friends who have been vulnerable enough to bring it up with me, saying that what is your problem, right? Like, and then that's when I have to explain that these are a few things that happened. And also, like, I'm the kind of person who does not reveal a lot of information to even my closest friends when I'm in a relationship, like what is going on there. To the outsider, it seems like everything is fine, only like, why did you suddenly break up, right? So yeah, I think the sanctity of the relationship is something that I try to maintain, but sometimes it happens at the cost of even realizing what is going on, because you're in the eye of the storm, you don't see it. The moment you sort of protract a little bit and see, that's when you realize that, hey, wait a second, this was going downhill all the way. So yeah, so commitment phobia hasn't been an accusation against me, for sure.
I've had those accusations. I've not had those accusations from, like Vismaya said, not from people that I dated or my friends, but it's been from my family, because they think, like my father has this constant dialogue, like his way of giving me the gyan is telling me that, oh, there are no tailor-made matches. Like, I think you're looking for something tailor-made, like you're never going to find, you just need to commit, and then, things will fall into place. And it's his way of convincing. And like, there have been uncles who come up to me and be like, what is stopping you? Like, why, I know everybody feels this fear, but you just need to go for it, and things will fall into place. And so they think the problem is that I am too scared to get married, or I've been holding myself back, and that's the reason. Because they look at it as though everybody's trying, but why is this not happening? Maybe you are not giving yourself enough to this. That's one. And the other aspect of it is also this question of this arises of we asking ourselves, like, why is this happening to us? Or people asking us, like, something is wrong, is a very weird condition for me, because I'm like, if I am not married, why is the onus on me when I'm trying? That I'm going out, I'm trying, and it's a matter of luck. And I think that I would not like to call it an insecurity, but it does shake the ground under you a bit. And because you also start questioning, okay, there must be something wrong, right? Like, I am doing it for some time. Maybe people are right. Like, my friends see it and I don't see it enough, and all of that, right? Yes, there is a way for us to discover our own faults and everything. But sometimes if somebody comes to me and says, oh, you must be commitment phobic, like that's why you've not found it, I'm like, I don't think that's the case. And I don't think I am that person. Maybe you feel that's the reason why I'm single, but it's not on me to go in and dig deeper and be like, oh, am I commitment phobic? And is this the reason why I'm single? Because it's their perception that something must be wrong, or we're not doing something right. And it also happens when people give advice, like, out of the blue, and be like, you should start doing this and you should start doing that, and you should, like, a lot of people tell me, oh, you should just go to Kaban Park every Sunday, you're gonna find your partner. I'm like, how am I going to find a partner if I go to Kaban Park every Sunday? Like, what kind of an advice is that? So it's I think it's their way of trying to be a helpful friend or like whatever, but it comes down to us knowing that maybe you can question it once and be like, okay, am I really? And be curious about it. But if it's not, it's not, right? Like, nobody can know whether you are commitment phobic or not, because you know the level of commitment you have for this process. Maybe not to the person, but you have commitment to the process, and that's what matters. And when the right person comes in, the commitment to the person will also come in.
I think it's a lot about the other person to also make you feel that way, right? You're afraid of something, then depends on the other person to make you feel good about it as well. So, yeah, personally, I think if the right person comes along, then all this phobia and all of these other things that, bothered you might go away, or it might increase. I'm not sure. But either ways, it depends. Like you said, it's luck. But I also think there's like a lot of options. Like if you go to a supermarket, right, you see a lot of these milk packets. You have full cream, you have like low fat, you have like packaged, you have in a plastic packet. So I tried like all of those milks and I realized so I am a low fat guy myself. So that is what I have stuck to. But I committed to that milk after trying like a lot of these different milks, right? Full cream gives me constipation. So that is something that I do not want. But low fat is something that stuck with me. So in a way, I feel like it's a lot of trial and error as well. And yeah, when you find like the right milk, you just stick with it. So it just makes it like a lot of these like mornings better, basically.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one thing. So I think it's also because I think most of you are staying in Bangalore, or maybe, yeah. So I think one of the problems in the small cities, so I stay in Mysore, the cafe is in Mysore. One of the biggest challenges in Mysore is, even though you're not updating your friends, they are already updated. They go out somewhere, it's a bloody small city. You see the same 100 faces every day, and you need not update anybody anything. You're seen with someone having a cup of coffee, and you meet them again, maybe in a bar in the evening, and they'll be like, oh, I saw you with this person. So what's happening? Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, you tell me. I mean, we just had a coffee, and sometimes it's so fast that you had a fight, and then you go to the bar. I'm like, yeah, I heard. I'm so sorry. I'm like, what? Does this happen in Bangalore? I don't think so.
No, I don't think people have enough time to take care of their own relationships here.
Or even
It is
to
a
just
problem.
talk to
If
their
you're
neighbors.
dating in the same circle, people will find
correct.
out.
Yeah.
Like if you
True,
went to
true.
the same school and you're seeing someone from the same social circle,
Correct.
it spreads like wildfire, which is like your small own Mysore, right? If you are all friends for the past 20 years, you
Yeah.
will talk about it. But I completely agree with Rishi what he was saying. You could be commitment phobic, right? Why is that the worst thing in the world?
Yeah.
If you meet someone who also didn't want a commitment for 23 years, it could work perfectly. So it actually depends on who you meet.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out what works for the two of you, it's golden. And that's why I think I agree that if you can just talk often enough. I have two best friends of mine who got married a couple of years ago, have a child now, and they do a monthly check-in with each other. They somehow make the time to do it, and they talk about everything. Now they have a child, so there's so much more to talk about, how to parent and how to be there for each other. They're doing it so well. Like, I'm like, just talking to somebody can change that relationship drastically. And who's to know what could work, right? Like Rishi said, like love bombing is a concept that we've heard negatively actually. But what if your partner loves that? We just need to find what works for your partner and what works for you. And if you just communicate it in the best way possible, it could be a relationship to write about, you know.
No, I just wanted to actually ask a question about friends and friendships, right? So we do have very like supportive friends, but at the same time, we also have friends who are like, why are you single? They're not being actively helpful. They're just being passively inquisitive. That's how I would like to probably phrase it. Sometimes it comes off as insensitive, and at best, you're like, okay, I understand the intention, but I don't think I want to answer this question. I'll move on. But what are some of the indirect ways in which these questions get thrown at you, or how are you made to feel slightly different from who they are? Because I know for a fact that I've lost a lot of my friends to marriages and children. Okay, so I can't be on the same table, have the same kind of conversations, because in some sense they feel like you don't get it because you're not a part of the clan yet, so you don't get it. So there are times when, two friends have hung out with each other's children, but I haven't even been invited to the party. The underlying assumption is that she is single, she's doing her own thing, so let her be. So the invite also hasn't reached me. So those are some of the subtle ways in which things that are hurtful get thrown around. So wanted to ask you guys, like, have you experienced similar things? I know Arjun had a lot to say about it the last time we spoke, so perhaps you can touch upon it, and obviously the rest of you all as well.
Yeah, I think plays a big role. As I said, first time I spoke to Vismaya and Dhriti about this, everything, all your social currency depends on your relationships. Even if you go out on a party, even if you have to be, even if you move into a new neighborhood, a single woman, first of all, the chances of you getting a house is very difficult. Forget about being invited later on. But after that, I think it's also because most of them are couples, and then they would like to hang out with couples because the men would like to have their time, the women can discuss about things that they concern, and then there are also a couple of kids who can play around in the park. So you alone might be good to give all three of them company, but then you're not preferred. You can be good with the child, you can have the manly talk with the man, and you can also discuss about the household work with the woman, because you are a champion, you're doing everything by yourself. So you know it, but then you're not preferred. And the second thing is, I think one of the things that I completely agree with what Anusha had told was, get a therapist if you want to discuss about these things. That's so true, because most of the discussions amongst boys is when we get drunk. It's usually a house party or somewhere where it's sitting and drinking. And then there's this one classic. There's one friend of mine. I remember back when we were drinking when we were 24, 26. We were drinking, and then he's like, are you looking to settle down? Are you looking to marry now? I'm like, no, I'm not. If I find somebody, I'll get married. I want it to be organic, but then I'm cool. So he's like, this is not how it works. You have to plan your life. He was so confident, and he was like, this life has to be in order. There's a certain things that you need at a certain time. It's nature, it's physics, it's biology, it's society. And then the elders have decided this. They would have thought something. You get married at 26, you have a child at 28, your life is settled by 30. Like, cool, because friends usually suggest what they feel is right. It's not that they don't wish any bad for you. He got married. 1 year later we meet, and like, I told you, I was right. You have to marry at 26, you have a great life at 27. Cool. 2 years later I met him. Now this was not, the honeymoon time is over, and then they have their own fights. I meet him, and then he got shit drunk, and I'm like, John, please don't get married, man. I'm like, this is too much work, too much. 1 year later he had a child. The day he became a father, he called me like, Arjun, this is the best thing that happened to you. The moment pride you feel, and then the happiness that you see in a child of your own, there's no joy in the world. 1 year later, again, when the child was not letting him sleep, he calls me in the middle of the night, dude, do something with this child. I can't, just don't have children, just adopt somebody. Just adopt somebody, adopt a 6-year-old child. Never go through this process. Don't do this again. And then once the child is 5 or 6 years, he would call me and like, Maga, I take back all my words. You have to get married. You have to have children, live through the life. I'm like, can you please figure it out first and then tell me? I can wait. I waited all this while. And I don't think another 4-5 years is gonna kill me. I'll follow all your footsteps. You figure it out. Give me a nice roadmap, and I'll follow it. Yeah, that's what I felt about this whole thing.
I kind of relate to what Arjun said, is that the negative influences that like Vismaya was talking about, like the feeling of being left out. I've not had that experience yet. I'm very glad and fortunate to have a very close group of friends who are also single in their 30s. It's like our own private support group, and like, you know, it's good. But there is like extended, like, you know, the the other circle of friends where there are married people. And
Yeah, I hope you don't have to wait for 3 or 4 more years. That's when the problem starts.
Here's hoping. Let's see how it goes. Let's hope that doesn't come to that. But the another thing is, like, even with these people, right? Like, I also feel the both sides, which is either telling you to, this is the great thing, get married, or tell, like, I have friends, like women especially, who are married and have kids, and they got married pretty early in their early 20s, and we've just stayed in touch. And once in a while, when I catch up with them, they're just like, oh my God, you are living the best life. Like, you know, this is so horrible. And like, I don't know, like why I had like, and it's also like a sad, depressing story that they tell, how they have to take care of everything, and how their mother-in-laws are like this, how their sister-in-laws are like this, and XYZ. And then they actively discourage you from getting married. And they're like, you know, don't do it, like, don't do it. Right? So I feel like there is, both of them are not helpful. Like, you know, somebody pushing you to go out and get married is also not helpful. And somebody actively telling you to, or invalidating the experience of getting married is also not true, right? Because one of my very close friends who lives in, lives in another city away from her family, she really wants to get married, and she is looking forward to it. She's actively dating to get married, and she has married friends, and all of them tell her, don't get married, like this is not right. So she feels so lost and unseen, and she can't be her vulnerable self, because it's also not, you are married, like you did not leave your husband because you're having a tough marriage, right? Like, you are still married, you're still going through the motions. That means that there is some value and some virtue to having a companion, but you're completely invalidating it, maybe because you want to make me feel better about being single, or because you just want to put all of your frustration onto me and be like, don't get married. But I think it's, again, situational. Like, as a friend, you can tell them, you know what, like, just going back to like Arjun's example, right? If that friend had said, you know, macha, like, you know, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, you have to be open to it. Like, you know, sometimes you love your wife, you love your married life, sometimes you're frustrated by it, you know, but it's a journey. Like, let's, you know, don't be afraid. When the time is right, you're going to figure it out, right? I think that's what a married friend, or that's a way that married friend can impart their experience onto you, rather than pushing you to the other edge and be like, married, don't get married, get married, don't get married, right? So but I often see that people I don't know for what reason, they don't tend to offer their wisdom in ways that is useful to a single person, but rather be more like, sometimes I feel scared to share my experiences with them, because they tend to negate it. If I go in and say, oh, you know what, like, I'm feeling like it's been too many years and I feel like I want to get married and I really want to find a companion, I feel very lonely. And they're just like, oh, don't feel lonely. Like, it's, you know, you are actually having the best life, and, you know, you are, I'm like, but I know what I'm feeling. I know how I go to bed every day, and I know how I feel, and you don't have to invalidate my feelings, right? So I think that's another frustrating thing that I faced, is two supportive friends who want you to have and be single for the rest of your life, and they think this is the best life. That's also not very helpful. And the flip side of having married friends who isolate you as well. If
I
you,
think I have a different experience. Again, I think my friends figured a way to help me through a breakup or through a hard time generally also by just not actually giving me any extremes. Because I have married friends who have children, I have friends who are single, I have friends who are divorced. So I have a nice little bunch of 6 girlfriends who have never given me any of these extreme advice, but they have really been through with me when I've had like self-esteem issues, because I feel like after a breakup, that's one thing that will happen. Like you really will feel insecure. You will feel like the ground below you is shaking, like Anusha said earlier on in the conversation. It's that gets tough. You start questioning a lot about, oh shit, what was the mistake? What did I do? What could I have done to fix it? I think friends, I think at least I have found friends who have helped me through that. Like we have a little WhatsApp group called the Hype Group. Like literally we're hyping each other up in the realist sense, not in the sense that, oh, you look beautiful today. Of course we do, but in the real sense that, listen, you got this done today and let's celebrate that. So I've never actually had extremes. Initially when I broke up, they questioned it a little bit that, listen, why didn't you just want to get married because that's what he wanted, or maybe move in together? Like, why didn't you just go through the normal path that the society lets you do? But it was just one conversation of them listening to me, and they were like, oh, okay, that's your mindset. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out with you. So I think it's all, they should take care of you and not the extremes of do this because I did it, because they're very happy with their marriages. They're lovely parents. They understand that I don't want that. So I feel like it's important when they just know how to take care of you individually and not give you advice. I know it's worked for me. It's worked very well for me.
I love that. I think the biggest form of kindness, and we keep bringing this up over and over again in pretty much every conversation that we've had so far, right? Though it's in different contexts. When you don't understand somebody else's point of view, but you're still able to be supportive, you're still able to create a non-judgmental safe space for them to just be themselves and say that this is what it is, without trying to offer solutions which may not work for them because you don't have the context. That is the kind of environment that I think we all thrive in. And also to be able to create that for ourselves, right? Like what works for you. So how do you build your self-worth up from feeling like you don't exist or you can't exist outside of that relationship? Because I think going back to the concept of the one, if you believe that it was only the one that existed, then you shouldn't exist without the one, right? Like, so if that is the corollary that we're drawing, then how do you build yourself up to find your next the one? So it is a lot of self work also, but that can become a rut in itself, to keep doing the self work and to keep expecting different results without actually putting yourself out there, or to keep being so hard on yourself to do the self work. Sometimes it may just feel like, look, today I don't feel like showing up for anyone, anybody. I want to lie in bed and do nothing at all. That's also perfectly fine. If you want to go into your therapy session and pick up notes after that, because a lot of the actual work happens outside of therapy sessions, right? So you want to probably look at that differently. Taking time out for ourselves, I think, is very, very important, and not taking yourself too seriously. I think one of you all mentioned that, like, I think we put ourselves on a pedestal a lot of the times, saying that, okay, we are these people, we work the hardest, we are the smartest, we're the most beautiful. So now I have to find a partner that matches these criteria. Doesn't work that way, right? Like, take yourself less seriously. So yeah, I think those, but how do you guys want to experience more kindness from other people and from your own selves as well?
Yeah, I think me as a person, I have always been kind to myself. I have had my share of mishaps. I know where I have been wrong. I know things that I can, do to get better myself and also do better things for my partner. And I think kindness is a very big thing that, I try and implement. The first thing I think that you can do is just think about it. So there's like primary emotions and secondary emotions, right? So usually you tend to feel like the secondary emotion earlier where you're angry, but the anger stems from a primary thing that has, nudged you. So I think it's very important to address those things, and just be with those emotions by yourself before, talking about it or moving on or whatever you choose to do. just take some time, absorb it, just see how you feel about it. Just be kind to yourself rather than saying, things have not worked out, I'm not good enough and stuff like that. And I think that's a very huge lack of it in the world where people are just too hard on yourselves, right? If something has worked for someone, it does not necessarily mean it will work for you. Now, like each one of us on this call is a different person, right? Each one of us has like a different perspective on things. So I think it's important to understand the other person's perspective, also be kind to them and not just, brush it off saying, ki, that's not the way it should be, or that's not the way, you should think about it. It's always good to validate the other person if you feel a certain way about them, and it's always good to show that feeling to the other person as well, because at the end of the day you don't know what the other person is thinking, you don't know what the other person is going through, you don't know what their although you do talk about baggages, but you don't know the core of it, right? You don't know like what has led to it. So it's always good to listen. It's always good to just listen, not with the expectation of providing a solution or make them feel better. It's good to just be there and just hear them out at the end of the day. Just absorb all that baggage, be like a emotional sponge at the end of the day and just absorb a lot of it. And I think it's very comforting as well, just being there for someone else or someone else being there for you, and just because you do not want anything out of it, just because you purely care and you want them to be okay, right? Be it your partner, be it your friends, be it like corporate or whatever. I think it pays to be kind. And I am a huge believer that if you put out kindness into the world, no matter what all bad things happen to you, but at the end of the day, you do get it back. And it has worked for me fairly well. And I continue to live by it also. So yeah, I think you should be kind to yourself at the end of the day. By that, I don't mean just don't address your issues. Don't be too kind also. You have to be harsh to yourself as well. That's how you grow.
I mean, I completely agree with Rishi. I learned this in therapy recently because of the negative thoughts that you have, maybe after a breakup or just generally also, that be your own best friend first, because we are so kind to our best friends. We are literally the nicest, kindest people when it comes to them sharing something vulnerable. Just try and do that for yourself, because there's so much negative thought, I think, right now in my head. And my therapist is just like, just you are a great friend. Try to be that for yourself for 1 minute, and you'll see the change in how your headspace is being. So being kind to yourself is non-negotiable. You have to try to do that every day. Of course, as critically as possible, like Rishi said, so not completely brush aside your issues. There are too many things to solve as well or deal with as well. I think kindness from others, I've been very lucky. Like I said, I've found friends and family that realize that them giving me a solution has never worked. I need to get there myself. I just need help. I need help to get there. So that's worked for me. I think I'm more working on being a kinder person in life generally, at work, sometimes with strangers. Like, I just want to be kind at the airport when someone's cutting a line. I don't want to yell. I want to be a little bit okay with it, like, let it go sometimes. Definitely kinder generally, and 100% kinder to myself as I would to a best friend. So that's what I think I'm trying to do now.
I have built up like this defense mechanism of fighting wars with everybody and saying, and defending how being single is the best thing. Also, invalidating people, saying that, look at your marriage and like, look at these people, like they're getting divorced, and what are you encouraging? And kind of going on the harsher side to protect myself, and like kind of been at war to not come off as somebody who's weak because they are single, right? And that has taken a lot of energy. It was with my own family, it was with myself sometimes, and like like how I told myself that oh, like what is the worst thing about like being single, and like I can live like this like the rest of my life. I'm not saying that philosophy is wrong, but I think when I sat down with it and got down to the core of why this is coming up and why I'm so defensive. And it also comes like this also manifests in the way of it's a judgment on other people as well, right? Like when I've seen my friends, and this is single girls, like Rishi was talking about social media. It also sets in this an expectation of, oh, somebody needs to look a certain way, and like all of this Bridgerton fairy tale stories that if this is not happening, then this is not right, and I need a partner who can do XYZ, and they're in finance and 6'5" blue eyes, like all of that stuff. And we also judge people and like throw all of that defensiveness onto them, saying that, oh, I don't want to marry this person, like, at least they have to be XYZ bar, and like, they have to be a certain way. That is also how cruelty kind of manifests, because you don't want to put that judgment on you. So you just isolate yourself, you put yourself on like a unrealistic pedestal where you're like, oh, I'm here and I need somebody who's higher than me to match my level. And all of that is, again, you like us not being kind to ourselves is what I feel. So I boil all of this down to the philosophy of myself dropping the defense. Like, I don't want to defend myself anymore. I don't want to, explain people why it is great to be single. I don't want to explain why I am single. I don't want to give them, or I don't owe anybody like any explanation as well. So I sometimes I'm in the mood to jest and I make fun of it. Sometimes I like, if it's a very vulnerable friend and I'm feeling lonely and I feel it's a safe space, I don't feel ashamed to say that, oh, you know what, like I am lonely. I do want to find somebody. Like, when am I gonna find a person to do this? And when I do, I want to curl up on a couch with with my partner or my husband. And that when those desires and those feelings, when those needs do come up, I don't try to push them down by saying, this is, you can't feel this way, or like, like what, or this is what weak people feel, or this is what you have to be strong enough to take care of yourself, and you don't need a man and you don't need anybody. So not going either way and just being kind to myself is accepting that there are moments when you feel it's great to be single. There are moments when you feel it's shitty to be single, where there are moments when you look at your married friends and you feel, oh, I want that. And there are also moments when you look at your married friend and think, I don't want that. And you have to, like, being true to myself and be, whenever those feelings come up, acknowledging it and be like, you know what, like maybe I do want to find this, or I'm okay accepting that I don't have this, I lack this, and it's okay for me to want it. Maybe not the way that my parents would want, but I am approaching it with the best of my abilities. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And being okay with that process, being okay with finding it the hard way. And also, this has also helped me kind of remove a lot of judgment from the people that I meet and date. Because if I am such a mess, if I have so many fluctuating needs, I can't expect this person to be the stable rock all the time. Like this person sitting in front of me in a cafe, in this beautiful atmosphere, he's bringing his best impression, I'm bringing my best impression. But 3 months down the lane, I'm going to see a very different person. So that's also allowed me to show kindness to other people, to people that I date, to tell my friends that, you know what, like maybe that guy is not as bad. Like, it's in your head. Like, you just need to slow down a little bit, right? So it's allowed me to hold space for myself, all my needs, all my feelings, and let them also be an imperfect version of themselves, like not expecting them to be like they might not, like, not to be flawed, right? To dismiss them because they have a flaw, to hold that space and be like, yeah, they're flawed, I'm flawed, like, let's see how this goes, right? So I think that has been the core of finding kindness for myself. And also with society, my perception helps that, you know what, like, these kids don't know how to be this, right? Like, I feel they're coming from a good place, although their words might not be kind, their words might be cruel. They're coming from a place of fear that, oh, this person has not figured it out, or like, I know more than them, and I'm being helpful by saying this. So I acknowledge the intent, but I reject the words. And fine, like, they're worried about me. That's great. But I also sometimes, when the person is receptive, I do tell them where I'm coming from. And I am actually surprised myself that a lot of people do come down and be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like my own aunts who have been extremely judgmental, and also kind of blackmailing at some point, and be like, you have to get married by December this year, and giving ultimatums. When I started practicing kindness with myself and with them, and talking to them in their own language, and showing them, like, like to give you an example, like my aunt who quit her job to get married and like go away. Like I sometimes ask her, do you ever wonder like what it would have been if you didn't? And just walk her through that memory lane and then tell her that maybe you also would, be a different person if you were 30 and unmarried, right? And I can see that sparkle in their eyes and where they be like, oh, now I get it, right? So it's sometimes you have the energy to bring them there, sometimes you don't, but at the end of the day, the kindness of the intent is right, but I don't have to take their words for it. I don't have to let it impact me. So it's like I drop the sword, but I have my shield. It's, when things get harsh, I can hold it up, but I don't have to fight this fight anymore. Like I have my own journey. I know what I'm doing. Even though it might be wrong, I will figure it out on my way, right? So if I'm doing something wrong, I'll figure it out on my way. But I don't need to fight this war anymore. It's not a war. It's not a fight. It's just something that people around me have not experienced, the society around me has not experienced. So I hold that space, and that is how I create kindness for me and for the people who can and cannot support me.
Yeah, I
So
really love
much.
the analogy. I love the analogies you gave and the examples you gave to like really strong, super useful analogy. Sorry, I'm just still processing. But Arjun, do you want to add on how you would like to receive more kindness and also from yourself and from people around you?
I have great friends. All the cases I've been talking about now are like a couple of few cases where, just to give a take on prejudice that we were talking about. But that apart, people have been really supporting. I think the key is the communication. So we need to make them understand. One of the things that's taken for granted when you're single is your time. When there's something the couple's doing, and then you might be the last one to be invited because they're like, you're single, you will join. Like, what else do you got to do? It's just not just for me. I've seen this across my group of single friends. If there's a house party, the guests come in at 9, but you go in a little early because you're the single person. I think you can help them with something. The guests leave in the morning, and then you stay back to help them clean up, maybe because you're single. I mean, sometimes your time is taken for granted. It's just that you have to make them understand that I have my things too. No, it's you can't just, it also so happens that sometimes your couple friends or they might get bored and they might want to just chill, not with their better half but with you. You are the first priority. They'll first call you, like, because they know for a fact that you are single. You'll be the first one to make them time out, and then they're super pissed. They're not pissed if their couple friends are busy. They're pissed if you are busy, because they're like, how can you not give time to me? What else you got? uh, uh, so you just have to make them understand that, listen, I mean, I really care for my time too, and then I want you to care for my time too. That said, I think prejudice, this knife cuts both ways. I think sometimes we also have to make sure that there are battles that they are facing, just like they don't understand my single battles. I don't understand their couple battles. I really have to, you know uh, sometimes give them that, I just have to make sure that I am not crossing my limits either. It's like I can't just do things and say that, hey, you know what, I'm single, I don't understand this. No, I mean, like, it's okay. Like, you try to talk to them too. So communication is the key. And being kind to yourself, I think this thing has actually worked out. I mean, when I felt that I was really rude to myself, what I did was I started imagining somebody else in my position, and I'm like, is this something that I would say to that person? I'm actually a little embarrassed, but then I've done the mirror talking to. You stand in front of the mirror and then you imagine somebody else who you really care, and then you try to tell the things that you wanted to tell yourself. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't tell anybody else. I wouldn't tell that person these things. So I sure shouldn't be telling this. I've not done it too many times, only once or twice. Okay, so but yeah, so be kind to others and be kind to yourself too through the process. I think it's very important. It's really important.
I think, like, in a way, we've naturally come to the end of this episode. I think after going in multiple different directions, it's kind of come to a nice close. But we always like to end our episodes with a rapid fire for everyone. So we'll go with the order that we had originally planned that we didn't stick with, but that's fine. So Disha, Rishi, Anusha, and then Arjun. So I'm going to ask you all a couple of quick questions, and one word, one sentence, whatever feels natural for you. Okay. Why is kindness important to you as an individual?
It's the core of being a human being.
Rishi?
I think it helps you grow. The more kind you are, I think it tells you a lot about your person, you as a person, your tolerances, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. It just, I think, brings you together if you're kind to yourself.
I like to look at it as a basic need, because for us, like, the kindness to ourselves is a basic need, because without that, we're gonna be so broken in the world. So I think it's a basic need.
This is one quote I read some time back, and that's been my favorite ever since. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. And I think that's what makes us human, right? I think if not for that, what else are we? If we are not kind, then we are not human at all.
Agreed. The next question: can kindness be learned?
I hope so, 100%. I'm not an inherently kind person, I think. It's something that I have developed because of therapy, because of the people around me. I hope so, my God.
Yeah, I
Rishi?
think it can be learned, absolutely. Although I don't see it as a skill, but I think you can grow into it. So what you get is what you receive. I believe in that. So I think kindness comes out in different ways. There's no one, set template for kindness. So yeah, I think it can be learned. Learn the way that you can be kind, learn the way that you want to be kind, and learn the way that the other person wants you, to be kind to themselves. So I think you can learn it. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I think kindness is a language, like how you speak to yourself and how you speak to others. So if you can learn a language, you also can learn kindness.
I'm a little skeptical. I'm really sorry. I don't think sometimes there's some people I don't think they'll ever understand what kindness is. I think it's because they have they've never seen through things. There can be a certain change in people. You can talk enough about this, but I don't think that much can change. There can be somebody who's always been kind, and then maybe he's just not in the right mood or something. But I really don't think there's you can pick 100 people sample case, and with whatever, like 1 year later or 2 year later, you can make all of them kind. I mean, you can kind of give them some basic discipline, but then I don't think that's a quality that I'm sorry.
No, that's completely fair. You're entirely.
That's what I felt. That's what I felt.
Vismaya, actually, I was wondering, do you also want to answer quick fire this today?
Oh,
Maybe learn.
maybe not. I will actually, I mean, to what Arjun saying, you don't have to be sorry about your opinions. I think that's something that we're taught, right? To just follow a pattern, to follow what has already been set as the status quo. And it is interesting, as you will see, in some of the episodes that we have already recorded also, people have had like very different perspectives, and that has made both Dhriti and I sit and think about our own perceptions around kindness. So yeah, I mean, please don't feel sorry for your opinions, all of you all on the panel. Okay, next.
So we've kind of answered this, but like, if you were to shorten your answer, how would you like to experience more kindness in 1 or 2 words?
Be more honest with the people around me, be more vulnerable. I think that's helping me. And if I just continue doing that, it'll be great. I think it'll work out for me.
Rishi?
Sorry, what was the question? How would you like to
Experience more kindness.
experience more kindness? Yeah, I think everyone around me has been kind. So I have been grateful for it. And I think personally being grateful for a lot of things, no matter how small or big it is, just shows, how kind you are to yourself, or how kind, the others around you are being. So I think just being grateful for what you have.
For me, it's holding space for, people with different opinions, people who come from have different perspectives, just like how we were discussing, right? Like, it's like being okay with somebody being different than you. That's how I would like to experience kindness.
And I think you should. I think you should lead by example. Whatever your definition or whatever you feel kindness is, you live that path, and you hope that people around you will inspire I think actions have a bigger impact than words. The way they see you do things, I think they'll pick up. And you just have to be hopeful. Do your karma, don't expect the fruit.
What's your idea of a kinder world?
Oh God, that's a big question.
I always like to reiterate an answer we got in a previous episode where they said their idea of a kinder world is a gentler one. And I
Yeah.
just really love that. And so when people are thinking about this question, because I know it's quite a big question, I love to give this example because it's something that's really stuck with me.
I think through the conversation, what Anusha said has stuck for me as well. Just understanding that someone else just has a different mindset, and if we can coexist, that would be beautiful. Like without being violent or without being angry all the time. Because I feel like I feel that all the time. I just have to accept that someone else is different. That's all. That's simple. It seems so simple.
Yeah, a kind of world for me would be like live and let be in a way. People have issues. You should be okay with issues. You should be okay with your own issues. You should be okay with the fact that the world has issues. So yeah, the other spin on it would be ki things happen. It's fine. As long as I think what Arjun mentioned, right? Show up, show like kindness in different ways wherever it's applicable. But yeah, just let others be. Don't try and force yourself, or don't try and get forced by any other person, or whatever circumstance. So yeah.
Yeah, I like to go with the same answer as well, like which is harmonious coexistence. I think that's the way a kind of world looks, where all of us live different lives, but we all come together as a community, a state, a country, a world, like where we hold space for people from different walks, different opinions, different ideologies, and respect them for who they are.
I think the kinder world for me would mean a little more liberal and accepted. That's all. You just have to follow acceptance. You might meet a lot of people. They might tell a lot of things. You might not agree with them, but then you just have to accept that it's their opinion. I think most of the times people are unkind when they feel that when they try to enforce their opinion on somebody else, when they want to preach and then they want somebody else to follow what they've done, and when they want to force the fact that what they feel or what they're doing is right. As long as they accept that, others don't have to accept, and the others are also like, fine, yeah, what works out for you is good. I think if people are more accepting, I think we can expect a better, gentler, kinder world.
Thank you. I love that. Okay. Do you wish you knew how to be kinder to those around you? And if you could give a line to support your answer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that comes with being able to hold the space, or like if you're honest with them, probably they'll be honest with you, for sure. I've realized this with my mom and dad because I live with them. It's such small things. They only want really small things. And I'm like, if that's all you're looking for, I can easily do that. It takes time, but you can figure it out, of course.
I think I would like to go with the same answer that, Disha said. My mom and dad were recently here, so they stayed with me for like 3 months and then they went back to Kolkata. But yeah, I completely agree with what Disha said. I can be a lot more kinder to my parents for sure. Smaller things, my small achievements do matter a lot to them, be it like a recognition email, which is very insignificant to me, but it brings tears to their eyes, which I sort of did not understand ki it's not a big deal, but for them it's a big deal. So that is something that I really picked up from them. How smaller things is what matters to them, no matter what I do. So yeah, and then they can be very unkind as well, where if I'm not agreeing to them, so they'll tell me like a lot of bad things. But I think the good lesson is to like, pick up those smaller things which I do, which mean a lot to them, and hopefully I'm able to reciprocate it also.
Yes, I think I'm learning how to be kinder to others around me. And one of the ways that I've found a little bit of a anecdote, right, is even in street fights where there's like a lot of aggression and like, maybe in a traffic jam, I've noticed that a lot of it comes from like what the cruelty or the unkind behavior comes from fear. Even anger comes out of fear. So being kind, like a lot of the times I feel like you can disarm a person with your kindness. Like they can hold their anger like a kindness, but they can hold their anger like a weapon, but you can disarm them by learning to be kind to people who sometimes it feels like they don't deserve your kindness, but it and I'm still learning. There are times when it's scary, but I wish there was it was more easier to practice kindness with people who don't practice.
And I think for me, I've been practicing this. I make a constant effort. So two things that have always worked out for me. One is I always put myself in the other position, in the other person's shoes, and I'm like, if I'm asking for a favor, I'll be actually thinking of, okay, how would I react? And then if somebody is asking me for a favor, and then I'm like, okay, what if I was that person? Like, what would I be expecting, and what is the right action that I would be expecting, and I would try to do the same. And the second thing is this is can it may sound cringe, but it is the truth. I count till 10. Sometimes when I'm in a situation, and then it's always the words that hurt people a lot. They can forget so many things. Scars heal, words, the pain that you inflict, that doesn't go. So most of the times when I feel that I'm losing it, I just take a break off. I just hold my words for 10 seconds. I just have a 10-second delay on the words, and that has worked out really well. And sometimes I'm really honest. I'm like, you know what, I think I can't have this discussion right now. I just need 20 minutes. I go have my coffee, have a smoke, listen to some music, come back, and then address the issue. I've noticed that I'm much kinder. Don't get the emotions get the better of you. Just hold on to that emotion for 5 to 3 minutes, and then you should be good.
I really
It's
love
not
that.
cringe, it's life advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm learning that every day. Please, I need this. This is not cringe. It's required. It's mandatory.
To break the rapid fire for a second, I really judge people on how they respond when they're angry. Because when you're in a good mood, it's easy to be kind, right? But how kind are you when you're not in a good space? For me, like that is a judge of character, honestly. Like that's a major judge of character. So yeah, thank you for that, Arjun. Okay, two more questions to go. If kindness was a person, who would it look like to you?
Oh wow. Right now I'm feeling my parents and my siblings. I'm feeling a lot of support from them. And I'm feeling like I have been there for them in the past couple of weeks. So I'm like, this is what is true kindness to me.
Yeah, parents for sure. My girlfriend at the moment, yeah, I can be very annoying, but the fact that she keeps up with me shows that she's very kind. So yeah, these three people right now, and of course my friends. So I've always been surrounded by like very kind people. One, I think kindness has many forms. It's for me, it has like a lot of forms. It has a lot of actions. So to simplify it into one thing would be very difficult. So yeah, parents and the person that I'm seeing right now. So
I would say my friends in general, but if I can give a shout out, like one particular friend called Carol, and she's been the person that I've learned self-compassion from, and somebody who helped me see all of these things that I was very blind about. So that I look at her when I think of kindness personified.
You are absolutely allowed to give shout outs. Everyone feels free to do the same.
For me, it would be any dog. I don't. Yeah. Just think of any dog, anybody's dog. I lost one. I have one more, and then these anybody's pet I can think of. I think they're the kindest souls, and we have to learn a lot from them.
I would like to add to Arjun's answer by saying anything with fur, actually. I'm good with them. Okay, and the last question is, what is something you would like to unlearn?
I think having unrealistic expectations, because that's what we are brought up with a little bit. Not just by your parents, but by like cousins who do better than you academic wise, or like get married quicker. Like, you know what I mean? those things, try not to put that on yourself. Because even though my parents don't let me go into that phase, but sometimes society might. Sometimes I might feel like, oh my God, that's the right thing to do at 30. Just let go of that. I want to unlearn that a lot.
For me in particular, I think you can't control everything is something that I've learned to unlearn. The fact that there are certain things in your life that you cannot help or cannot do anything about, and you have to be okay with it. And I wouldn't say it's a feeling of helplessness, but just going with the flow is sometimes the best possible thing for you to do without knowing the outcome. So, yeah.
This is a very tough question because there's a lot of things that I think I have unlearned. But of that, this might be very weird. But a lot of the times when I look at people who are violent and cruel, whether with their words or whether with their actions, it's easy to put them in a box and say, oh, these kind of people are like this, right? Like, and that tag could be anything. Sometimes you put the tag on a gender, sometimes you put the tag on religion, from the place they are from, or I used to make fun of my MBA friends saying that, oh, MBA people are like this. And so the biggest part of unlearning was that to not associate a kind of behavior with a group of or a kind of people. It's just an individual, it's just a situation, and to not associate it with a larger crowd or or label it as these people are this way. That has been the biggest unlearning.
I heard this. This is the first time I'm thinking of this question altogether. Like in all my 30 years of life, I've never thought about this question. But now, if I have to look back, I think the biggest tragedy of life is the biggest tragedy of my life is I'm a survivor. I've learned to live no matter what. I've learned to move on. I wish I could unlearn that. Maybe my life would have been different. Maybe I would have been a little more. I would have put in a little more effort to save people who left, maybe, or I think as and when I've grown as a person, I've grown as a really strong individual, and then it's like no matter what, I live on. If I had unlearned that, maybe things would have been different. I don't know. I don't know if it's for good or for bad, but I think I'm curious. I'm curious to know what would have happened if I was not a survivor. If I had not learned to just live on with whatever, move on with whatever, I think I'm curious to know what would have happened.
That gave me shivers, literal shivers, because I've always seen like being a survivor as something good, like it's like a good thing to be. But I never realized about how much we just push down when we put on that survivor mode. I really loved your answer, Arjun. Thank you so much. But that brings us to the end of this episode of the Kind podcast. And now we do our offering to the algorithm gods. But thank you all for being here and just all of your analogies, all of your stories, and just sharing your personal stories. Honestly, it's not always easy to do it. And I'm so happy that all of you were willing to do that, to be part of this episode. So a big thank you from all of us at the Kind podcast. People who are listening into the podcast, thank you for listening to this episode. Would love to hear your thoughts and revelations you had through the wonderful things all of these people said. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at the Kind podcast, and
YouTube.
and all our episodes go out on Spotify and YouTube with videos, so you can see these lovely people's faces. So please listen in, let us know what you thought, and we will be back with another episode soon. So that's it, and thank you all for being here.